Hi there everyone, it's Arcus here on What Have I Been Watching, and today's topic is still Captain Marvel. And this time I will dive more into the movie and events that unfolded, so therefore I'm issuing a spoiler warning. If you want a spoiler-free review of Captain Marvel, you can go watch my spoiler-free review, which I will link down below. As of now, you have been warned, so now let's get on with it. As I stated previously, Captain Marvel was truly an exceptional movie and something out of the extraordinary. The way Marvel decided to explain Captain Marvel's origin story on the big screen was a huge surprise for me in a very positive way. Marvel Studios managed, after producing a number of origin stories, that they are really heavy lifters, and this time produced a new standard of how an origin story could be told. The fact that the movie starts out with Verse, aka Captain Marvel, you know Carol Danvers, she has a lot of names in the movie, on Hala, which is the center planet of the Kree Empire, training immediately, continues the great success of Infinity War by throwing the audience straight into the action without giving any explanation whatsoever. And at first, I gotta admit, I got a little bit confused as to what was happening, but eventually you learned that Verse is living on Hala and is a part of their army/soldiers on special missions, and they are going to stop an invasion from the Skrulls. Only Verse gets captured during the mission, which turns out to be a backlash, and suddenly the Skrulls are searching through her memory, and this is when the brilliance of the writers and producers truly comes forward. You get to see little glimpses of Verse's previous memories as a human on Earth named Carol Danvers. However, you don't get any explanation to start with, and then straight off, instead of continuing on with the flashbacks, which I thought they were going to do at first, because then you would get, you know, the origin story and so forth. Instead, they jumped straight back to the ship, and you have Verse get stranded on Earth in the 1990s, which is the decade the entire movie takes place, and she crashes into a classic video rental store, which just sets up the entire movie so perfectly. Now, the movie follows Verse on Earth trying to figure out why she has these bits and pieces of vague memories of certain people and places. And this is also when the viewer is first introduced to the Skrulls' shape-shifting ability that they can use to assume any life form they choose. And the way that the movie originally starts, I expected the Skrulls to be the villains of the movie, and this is also the way Marvel wants you to believe it. However, the more further you get into the movie, we get to learn that it's in fact the reverse, that the Skrulls are actually just a poor species that have been in the center of this war, and they're suffering because of it, and they have actually been targeted by the Kree, who turn out to be the bad guys all along, with them having tampered with Carol's memories and having deleted everything from her previous life on Earth that she had. And when this plot twist came, it was just so completely unexpected, and it totally made sense later on when they explained everything, and you began to feel really bad, and you felt a lot of sympathy for the Skrulls, and are truly starting to hate the Krees of what they had been doing towards them in the war. Because in the beginning, I was on the hype train, you know, the Krees were cool, they had all this high-tech technology, they lived in a big city, they had Verse, which was Carol Danvers, and it seemed really good for them. But the more the movie went on, it sort of shifted, but they shifted it in such an interesting and positive way that it was something that you would never have guessed as a viewer unless you had, I don't know, some sort of really good comic background. But even in the comics, the Skrulls are portrayed as the bad guys, usually. There's entire issue of Secret Invasion where the Skrulls are basically taking over Earth. So, therefore this was a really fresh way of looking at an origin story and the way they decided to produce it. And the moment she lands on Earth, the viewer is first introduced to the Skrulls' shape-shifting ability, as I mentioned, but this is also when Carol Danvers is first introduced to Nick Fury, which I must mention, they did such a phenomenal job of digitally altering him to look younger in order for the character to fit in with the decade. huge prompts to the editors and the graphics team and everyone for making that happen. And it's the same old Fury that we all love from the Avengers movies. However, it is so much fun seeing him in this environment and under these circumstances, when he's still relatively new on the job and he has no clue that life beyond Earth even exists. And this creates some really good comedy between Carol and Fury, especially when Carol is trying to describe what she is and what she's fighting, which is the Skrulls. And throughout the movie, the chemistry between these two characters is spot on, and it develops in a very fast and interesting way, because they get an understanding of each other, and they make for such an interesting and funny duo. There are so many jokes and funny moments that made the entire theater laugh so hard it was almost hard difficult to hear what they were saying in the movie, which just shows how great the comedic elements were in this movie. And they never felt forced either. They always felt very natural and fitting with the dialogue and the moment, and just the entire way the character Carol Danvers is portrayed in the movie by both Brie Larson and as well as the writing team and all that. She makes for a character that fits really well with comedy and it never feels forced, which was a really great, amazing astonishment by Marvel. And also simply the fact that they decided to add an adorable cat named Goose to the movie just elevated it into so much better. The moments with the cat and Fury were some of the most hilarious scenes in the entire movie, according to me, and the fact that the Skrulls were also afraid of the cat made for even funnier moments. And when it was later announced that the cat was in fact a form of alien species with giant tentacles that could come out of his mouth if he wanted to, truly surprised me and everyone else. It was so unexpected. And one of the most funniest moments in the entire movie was, in my opinion, when the Krees used their scanners to determine whether or not the life force was threatening, and the scanner said that the cat was extremely dangerous and should be taken with very high precautions. And then when the scanner went on to Fury, it said life force human, almost of no importance / very weak. And this displayed the genius of the comedy the writers had, and the producers and everyone who was involved with the movie had, that they could portray it so that a cat seemed more dangerous than Nick Fury. And as I mentioned previously, also the way that they decided to write Carol's character with a lot of comedy and confidence. It showed so well in the entire movie, and Brie Larson, who plays her, executed this so perfectly, and she was truly an amazing cast for the role. I don't think anyone else would have done justice to the role the way she did. The way they pieced together Carol's origin story by having a mix of flashbacks triggered from photos and stories was also the perfect balance, which created, in my opinion, one of the greatest origin stories Marvel has done so far. Since it was so different from the rest of the origin stories that they had done previously, which, starts off from their childhood and it moves forward, in this centric, normal way. But this was so different and so cleverly made that it created a unique experience watching this movie, and you gotta live it from her perspective, from thinking, she was versed from the beginning, from the Kree Empire, to coming to the understanding that she was actually born on Earth as Carol Danvers, and then when she was helping the scientist with her secret experiment, which, by the way, the scientist was a Kree who was trying to help the Skrulls escape from this awful war, since she had learned the truth, was when Carol was exposed to what looked like, to me at least, like some sort of nuclear explosion, and Carol somehow absorbed this power, and that's where she got her power from, which was a really clever explanation of it. However, it was right at this moment that the Kree had her memories removed and was captured, and this is also that she didn't know what she was capable of doing since the Kree had limited her. And when she finally realized her true potential in the end and removed the Kree's beacon that had weakened her powers, she sort of entered God mode, and she literally obliterated all of the Krees and ships and everything that stood in her way. And when this moment came, you know, the visual effects, they were so cool and spot on, and just got me so excited to watch Avengers Endgame, because when you get to see her with someone with this sort of power, you could just start to imagining how this could influence the fight with Thanos, and how her interactions would be with the other Avengers, who by the looks of it have never seen anyone with capable of her powers and her potential. And I especially want to see the moment between her and Iron Man, if it comes down to it. I mean, it probably won't, but I would like to see it, because Iron Man is basically a version of Captain Marvel, only Captain Marvel can do everything that Iron Man can, but like a million times better. Because Iron Man, sure, he's great, he has built his suit and all this, but Carol has all this built into her, inside her body, because of this nuclear explosion, I'm gonna call it that, that happened to her. So she has all this amazing potential and abilities, and I can't wait to see it. Also, the small details in the background and the subtle hints to what would later happen in the MCU was so great to finally get some explanations. Like, for example, how Fury only has one eye and always has an eye patch over the other, which was one of the funniest moments again in the movie, by the way, which turns out it was because of the cat, that he had scratched his eye and therefore he could no longer use it. And also the fact, I was very surprised when I learned that the Tesseract was behind the secret power that the scientists had planned to use in order for the Kree to escape from the war. And this is also what is flowing inside Captain Marvel, because they said that the energy core that she had absorbed was a bit from the Tesseract. So therefore she has a lot of potential, and I might have come to the conclusion that she might have a little bit of the Mind Stone's power inside of her body because of this. And it would definitely come in handy against Thanos. Also, the short tease with Ronan was a great Easter egg, and just to see his expression when Captain Marvel came flying in towards his ship after destroying everything else was priceless, and made you even more hyped for Captain Marvel. And I can barely wait for another Captain Marvel movie to come out of this, because they definitely have to make sequels, and also for Avengers Endgame. As I said before, it was definitely a long time coming, finally having a female-led superhero movie, and it blew right past my wildest explanations and delivered in so many great ways, and therefore this movie definitely deserves a 10 out of 10 ranking without question, and I will definitely go and see it again very soon, because now that I know all the facts of the movie and how it turned out, it will give me a new pair of eyes to watch the movie with, considering that the Krees were actually bad guys and the Skrulls only wanted peace, and they wanted to be free, they wanted to leave, you know. And this leaves me with high hopes for the future of Captain Marvel's influence in upcoming projects, and other superhero females alike, that would probably come into the spotlight because of this, and showing how successful this movie was. And that's all for this time. As always, if you have any thoughts or questions, simply comment down below, or if you have anything you want me to review next, leave a comment down below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. And while you're at it, why not drop a like on this video, and make sure to subscribe to stay tuned with upcoming reviews and other videos. Until next time, this is Arcus signing off.